Dave, welcome to the Leanpub launch video for the Software Developers Guidebook, a collection of modern engineering practices. I was wondering if you could take a moment to talk to us a little bit about your book, about how it came to be, and what it's about and who it's for.
Sure. My book is the Modern Software Developers Guidebook, and it started from an unusual place. I run a YouTube channel, and as part of the, I suppose, promotion around the YouTube channel, we have a mail list. And for mail list subscribers or signatories, we send out regular how-to guides, short, concise bits of advice organized to try and give people some help with software development for a variety of different perspectives. So we talk about some kind of team leadership kind of things. We talk about some technical things, how best to write automated tests, how to practice continuous delivery, all sorts of different topics. And so we've been doing these for a little while, and we collected a few, and we thought it would be nice to make them more broadly available and to put them in one place. So we started work on assembling those into a book. And so that it's largely that content, lightly edited to make sure that there's not too much duplication between chapters and so on. But each chapter is essentially standalone and offers kind of quick kind of tips. So you know, the sorts of lists of bits of advice, and then a few tips of do these things and these things to help you get better results. And so that's really where it came from. And we'd had good feedback on the how-to guides, and so we didn't quite know how it would land as a book, but so far it's doing pretty well. So we're getting some very nice feedback from people, and I'm delighted to say that we've ended up top of the charts on Leanpub, so it's doing pretty good.
Yeah, it's doing really well. Thanks very much for using our platform for this book. It's just amazing to see a new Dave Farley book show up. One sort of thing when I was thinking about recording this video with you, I was thinking we've got a couple of great universities nearby, and when summer comes around, we like to hire co-ops if we have the availability. So co-op people who are in computer science or software engineering programs or physics, who are looking for summer jobs as part of their university degree. And so if you were to pick one thing from the book, so someone's brand new, it's their first week as a programmer being employed, what's one of the things from your book that they could get?
There's quite a lot. I think in terms of, so there's a whole section on test-driven development. I think that I'd count test-driven development broadly as one of the most important rediscoveries that's happened during my time as a software developer. I think it's one of the most important engineering practices, and still not enough people practice it. So if I wanted to point people at one set of stuff, I'd point them at the stuff about test-driven development. There's a section on software testing, so there's a beginner's guide to test-driven development, top tips for test-driven development, acceptance test-driven development, what to test and when. So there's a few different angles covered, and I'd like to point people in that direction, and hopefully that would get them interested enough to start exploring a bit further, because I think this is probably the most valuable practice to learn in a beginner software developer's career.
Yeah, thanks very much for sharing that. Yeah, I noticed that section was sort of near the beginning. And at the end too, there's a really great section on good habits, which just, I mean, anyone who's sort of, aging into their career knows that, it's those developing actually good habits, things that sort of eventually come to you naturally, but thinking about them as they're being formed, that can be one of the most important things long term. And again, for this sort of young people starting out, one of the first things that employers notice or clients notice is just the things that come naturally to you. And those come naturally until they're artificially sort of learned, and then they come naturally again to you anyway. Yeah,
and it's one I've been fortunate to have worked with and have known some fairly world-class programmers in my time. And my friend Kent Beck says it most succinctly. He says, people think that I'm a great programmer. I'm not a great programmer, but I'm a good programmer with with great habits. And I think that's the truth, is that there's a lot of mysticism and mystique talked about developer skill, developer performance, I think it's, in some ways, it's more straightforward and harder as a result. But I think that one of my things certainly is one of the big influences in my life is that I'm very much a scientific rationalist thinker. I love science, and so I'm deeply into the ideas of engineering. And I think that following a rational approach and being thoughtful about how we organize things and adopting sort of deep ideas from science, like approaching everything with a somewhat skeptical mind and figuring out how to experiment to figure out where you're wrong, assuming that you're wrong very often. All those sorts of things are the kinds of habits that, over a career of getting stuff wrong, you learn some of the habits to try and avoid getting it wrong quite so often. And I think that's really what it's about. And so, working in small steps so you can review where you are after each small step, and treating change as an experiment in the evolution of your software, are all part of those good habits, to my mind.
That reminds me, just before we started recording, I mentioned I watched your latest video on your YouTube channel about the worst programmer you ever worked with, which is really good. And you do talk about how, like, one of the traits of the best programmers is being able to face their mistakes and learn from them. And I love the idea of kind of one way one can handle that is framing a mistake as an experiment with
Yes.
no result. It went
Bad
bad.
idea. We learn the most when we make a mistake,
Mhm.
if we're paying attention. And it's that paying attention that's the really important part, and I think differentiates somebody with an engineering mindset and the kind of good habits that we're talking about.
Just before I let you go, I'd like to ask you just to talk a moment about your YouTube channel. You rebranded it relatively
Yeah.
recently, and just if you could talk to our audience about that.
Sure, by all means. So my YouTube channel was started at the beginning of the pandemic. That kind of tripped us into trying something new, and the YouTube channel was the new thing that we tried. It was called Continuous Delivery, and we did much better than we expected to in terms of attracting an audience and building an audience. Recently, just a month or two ago, we rebranded the channel, and it's now called Modern Software Engineering. And if anybody's got any old links that point to the continuous delivery channel, it'll still take you to the same place. You'll still see the same stuff. We've not got rid of anything. But what we've added is that we've now got a bunch of other presenters than me. So we've got a group of, there are 6 of us in all, and all pretty well known, sort of on the conference and speaker circuit, or as authors, those sorts of people. Some people certainly are people that others would consider to be thought leaders in our discipline. So we've got some real genuine deep expertise, and the idea is that to have a slightly more diverse range of opinions than me, and to be able to cover a broader spectrum of topics perhaps than I would on my own. Plus, I've been doing this for 5 years now, and it's nice to have some help coming up with the topics.
It's Trisha G.
Yes, okay. Trisha G, Steve Smith,
That's what
who wrote a very good Leanpub book called Measuring Continuous Delivery. Emily Beisch, who's an expert in refactoring and test-driven development. Kevlin Henney, he's kind of one of the most highly scored conference speakers on the international conference scene. Brilliant speaker and really thoughtful person on computer science and so on. And Kent Beck. And so, we're looking at the broad spectrum of topics in the space of modern software engineering, and trying to continue what we were doing with the continuous delivery channel of giving people honest, real world advice that will help people in their everyday work and careers. But one of my proudest things about the YouTube channel is that pretty much every day, somewhere in email or social media or something, I'll get somebody contacting me saying, Dave, I saw this or read that and tried it out and it's working. So thank you. So that's wonderful. If we can help people get to these genuinely better ways, more effective ways of working, that's how we all get job satisfaction, really. So that's really what our YouTube channel is for, or meant to be for.
Yeah, well,
And
congratulations on the success with it and all the like huge audience that you've reached with all your great advice and really fun videos. I need to say to watch, really fun and thoughtful and insightful. The book that we're talking about today is the Software Developers Guidebook, a collection of modern engineering practices by Dave Farley. I can't recommend it enough wherever you are in your career or your curiosity about programming. It's a great book for you. Dave, thank you very much for taking the time to do this launch video with us.
it's my pleasure, and I'm always very happy to be working with Leanpub. Thank you.
Thanks.